पाश्चात्यादेशतारिणे वाञ्छकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। Okay, so fifth chapter, Karam Yoga, action in Krishna consciousness. We started last time. So we just saw that how this is connected to the fourth chapter. In the fourth chapter, we talked about transcendental knowledge. So Karam Yoga, and we also learned about Karam Yoga and the different types of sacrifices, and they result in Gyan, transcendental knowledge. And in fifth chapter, we are learning about the characteristics of a Gyani. One who attains Gyan, then what are his characteristics? So the description of a Gyani is there in the fifth chapter. And first verse, we saw how Arjuna is again clarifying from Krishna what is better, Nishkam Karam Yoga or Karam Sannyas. And in the second verse, then Krishna tells that both of them are good at first. So with both of them, they can lead to liberation. But then he says Karam Yoga Vishishyate, that Karam Yoga is better than Karam Sannyas. Why? We did three reasons for that. Do you remember? And I think it's in 2 weeks, but still let me try. Do you remember what were the three reasons why Nishkam Karam Yoga is better than Karam Sannyas?
Yes, Mataji, because it's easier to perform, no austerities, but do the prescribed duties.
Yes. Wonderful.
And then safer, no risk of falling down.
Haribol.
Yeah. And the third is natural advancement and acquire knowledge. Naturally advance to acquire knowledge.
Yes, all correct, Mahadaji. Wonderful. So it is Nishkam Karam Yoga is easier to perform, it is safer, and then the third reason is Gyan is contained within it. As we keep performing the Nishkam Karam Yoga, purification happens and the knowledge is revealed from within. So all these characteristics are there in Nishkam Karam Yoga, so it's better than Karam Sannyas. And then in the third verse, like in the previous verse, second verse, Krishna tells Nishkam Karam Yoga is better than Karam Sannyas. So if someone questions, will a Nishkam Karam Yogi also attain liberation? Then Krishna tells in the third verse that yes, because he is as good as a sannyasi. Why is he as good as a sannyasi? Because he is not attached to the fruits and he is free from the dualities and is free from the bondage then. So bandhat param uchyate. So then he is free from bondage. So of course, this can also lead to liberation. So today we have to start from verse number 4. Okay. Sankhya yoga prathak bala pravadanti na pandita ekam api asthitah samyag ubhyor vindate phalam. Someone please read translation and purport.
Should I read, Mataji?
Yes, Mataji, please go ahead.
Translation: only the ignorant speak of devotional service, karma yoga, as being different from the analytical study of the material world, Sankhya. Those who are actually learned say that he who applies himself well to one of these paths achieves the results of both. Purport: the aim of analytical study of material world is to find the soul of existence. The soul of the material world is Vishnu or the Supersoul. Devotional service to the Lord entails service to the Supersoul. One process is to find the root of the tree. And the other is to water the root. The real student of Sankhya philosophy finds the root of the material world, Vishnu, and then in perfect knowledge engages himself in the service of the Lord. Therefore, in essence, there is no difference between the two because the aim of both is Vishnu. Though those who do not know the ultimate end say that the purposes of Sankhya and Karma Yoga is not the same, but one who is learned knows the unifying aim in these different processes. Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna Mataji, thank you. Okay, so here Krishna is telling Sankhya. Sankhya is what? the karam sannyas, the path of gyan or the path of karam sannyas. And yoga stands here for nishkam karam yoga. So Krishna is saying, if someone thinks both of them to be different, then he is to be considered a bala, a child, not a pandita. Pravadanti na pandita. He is a bala, he is a child. Because if one practices nishkam karam yoga, then he comes to the platform of jnana. So they are not different paths, but jnana is the subsequent step to nishkam karam yoga on the same path. Ubhayor vindate phalam. So the result of both of them is same. It's liberation. So not two different paths, but two steps of the same path. Anyone who thinks them to be different path, then he is a childish person. He is not mature. He is a bala. Nishkam Karma Yoga, it leads to Gyan Yoga, and that leads to liberation. So these are two steps on the same ladder. They are not two different paths. So we need to understand that. And in the purport, Prabhupada is giving the example of this tree root. Devotional service to the Lord entails a service to the super soul. One process is to find the root of the tree, and the other is to water the root. So this is Nishkam Karma Yoga and Gyan. So one real student of Sankhya philosophy finds the root of the material world. Sankhya philosophy is the Karam Sannyas, or the path of knowledge. By knowledge, we understand what is the root of the material world. It is Vishnu. And then by the other path, Nishkam Karma Yoga, we water that root. So that is Nishkam Karma Yoga, watering of the root. And that's how we can serve Vishnu, we can attain Vishnu, we can please him. So those who do not know the ultimate and say that the purpose of Sankhya and Karma Yoga are not the same, but one who is learned knows the unifying aim in these different processes. So this is a wonderful example Prabhupada is giving here, to find the root and to water the root. By Gyan, we find the root, that is Vishnu, and then by Nishkam Karma Yoga, we water that root. So they are just two different processes on the same path. Okay, moving on to verse number 5. Yat sankhe prapayate sthanam tad yoger api gamyate ekam sankhyam cha yogam cha yaha pashyati sa pashyati.
I'll read.
Yes.
One who knows that the position reached by means of analytical study can also be attained by devotional service, and who therefore sees analytical study and devotional service to be on the same level, see things as they are. Purport: the real purpose of philosophical research is to find the ultimate goal of life. Since the ultimate goal of life is self-realization, there is no difference between the conclusions reached by the two processes. By Sankhya philosophical research, one comes to the conclusion that living entity is not a part and parcel of the material world, but of the supreme spirit soul, a spirit whole. Consequently, the spirit soul has nothing to do with the material world. His actions must be in some relationship with the supreme. When he acts in Kṛṣṇa consciousness, he is actually in his constitutional position. In the first process, Sankhya, one has to become detached from the matter, and in devotional yoga process, one has to attach himself to the work of Kṛṣṇa consciousness. Factually, both processes are the same, although superficially one process appears to involve detachment and the other process appears to involve attachment. Detachment from matter and attachment to Kṛṣṇa are one and the same. One who can see this sees things as they are. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji. So again, Krishna is telling here that devotional service here, that is Nishkam Karma Yoga. In the translation, if you see, Prabhupada is using the word devotional service, that stands for Nishkam Karma Yoga, and the analytical study, that stands for the Jnana Yoga or the Sankhya analytical study. They both are Jnana Yoga or Karam Sannyas. And devotional service is Nishkam Karma Yoga. So Krishna is telling that one who thinks these two to be on the same level, then he actually sees in the right perspective. Yaha pashyati sa pashyati. One who understands that both Nishkam Karma Yoga and Karam Sannyas are on the same level, he actually is seeing the things in the right perspective. And Prabhupada is giving a devotional perspective in the purport. What Prabhupada is telling is, first of all, by Sankhya, by Gyan, what do we understand? One comes to the conclusion that a living entity is not a part and parcel of the material world, but of the Supreme Spirit whole. So by Gyan, we understand who we are. And then we understand who God is, what is our relationship with Him. And once we understand the relationship, we have to engage according to that relationship. So consequently, the spirit soul has nothing to do with the material world. His actions must be in some relation with the Supreme. When he acts in Krishna consciousness, he is actually in his constitutional position. That is our real position. So this we all learn from Sankhya, from Gyan. In the first process, Sankhya, one has to become detached from matter. So once we attain this knowledge, we understand we are not a part of the matter of the material world, we are detached from it. And then in the devotional yoga process, one has to attach himself to the work of Krishna. Okay, we are detached, but where do we go now? We can't just stay hanging in the air. We have to attach somewhere. Now we understand our relationship with the real person. So we engage ourselves in relation to him. We attach ourselves to the work of Krishna. So that is devotional service or Nishkam Karma Yoga, according to this verse. So factually, both the processes are the same. Although superficially one process appears to involve detachment and other process appears to involve attachment. But both of them are leading us to the supreme goal. So both of them are the same. So that's why in the translation we say they are both on the same level. Same level doesn't mean they both stand, next to each other. They are, we understood in the previous one, they are subsequent to each other. They are two steps on the same ladder, but they both are leading us towards the same goal. That's why they are on the same level. So detachment from matter and attachment to Krishna are one and the same. One who can see this one who can see this sees things as they are. He can actually see the things in the right perspective. Okay, moving on to verse number 6. Sanyasastu mahabaho dukkham aptum ayogata yoga yukto munir brahma na chirena digachati. Somebody is logged in with 108. Yeah, you want to read? (108) Mataji Prabhuji, will you please read translation and purport? Okay, I will read it.
Shall I read, Mataji?
Who's that?
Dechu here, Mataji.
Dikshu Mataji. Oh, you have logged in with some other number. It's 108 here.
Oh, okay. I don't know what has
only.
happened.
Yeah. Please read
Okay.
Mataji. Yeah.
Okay, sorry. Merely renouncing all activities, yet not engaging in the devotional service of the Lord, cannot make one happy. But a thoughtful person engaged in devotional service can achieve the supreme without delay. Purport. There are two classes of sannyasis or persons in the renounced order of life. The Mayavadi sannyasis are engaged in the study of Sankhya philosophy, whereas the Vaishnava sannyasis are engaged in the study of the Bhagavatam philosophy, which affords the proper commentary on the Vedanta Sutras. The Mayavadi sannyasis also study the Vedanta Sutras, but use their own commentary called Sariraka Vyasa, written by Sankaracharya. The students of the Bhagavata school are engaged in the devotional service of the Lord according to the Pancharitrika regulations. Panchantrika regulations, and therefore the Vaishnava sannyasis have multiple engagements in the transcendental service of the Lord. The Vaishnava sannyasis have nothing to do with the material activities, and yet they perform various activities in their devotional service to the Lord. But the Mayavadi sannyasis engaged in the studies of the Sankhya and the Vedanta and the speculation cannot relish the transcendental service of the Lord. Because the studies become very tedious, they sometimes become tired of Brahman speculation, and thus they take shelter of the Bhagavatam without proper understanding. Consequently, their study of the Srimad Bhagavatam becomes troublesome. Dry speculations and impersonal interpretations by artificial means are all useless for the Mayavadi sannyasis. The Vaishnava sannyasis who are engaged in devotional service are happy in the discharge of their transcendental duties, and they have the guarantee of ultimate entrance into the kingdom of God. The Mayavadi sannyasis sometimes fall down from the path of self-realization and again enter into material activities of the philanthropic and altruistic nature, which are nothing but material engagements. Therefore, the conclusion is that those who are engaged in Krishna conscious activities are better situated than the sannyasis engaged in the simple speculation about what is Brahmana and what is not Brahman, although they too come to Krishna consciousness after many births. Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna Mataji, thank you. Okay, so here Krishna is telling that if someone is not connected to the Supreme, then what happens? And on the other hand, if someone is connected, then what happens? Sannyasas tu mahabaho dukkham aptum ayogataha. Ayogataha is not connected to the Supreme. Yoga means connection with the Supreme. So ayogata is one who is not connected to the Supreme. Then what is the result? Dukkham aptum. He will get only dukkham. He is afflicted with miseries. So Krishna is telling someone is not connected to the Supreme, then he is not purified, and result will be only dukkham. He will be affected by all types of dualities. On the other hand, if one is yoga yukto, next line is yoga yukto munir brahma. So if one is connected to the Supreme in nishkam karma yoga, then result is he achieves Brahman without delay. Brahma na chiranadi gacchati. Without delay, he will attain Brahman. He will attain liberation. So that's the result of being connected to the Supreme in Nishkam Karma Yoga. So in this section, Krishna is telling that Nishkam Karma Yoga is better than Karam Sannyas. And in purport, Prabhupada is telling the difference between Mayavadi Sannyasi and the Vaishnava Sannyasi. So what happens is Vaishnava Sannyasi, they have nothing to do with the material activities. They are sannyasis. They have given up all sort of material activities, but they have not given up activities. Which type of activities they are engaged in? Devotional service to the Lord. So they are Vaishnava sannyasis. They are doing everything for the service of the Lord, for the pleasure of the Lord. Whereas Mayavadi sannyasis, they are engaged in dry speculations and impersonal interpretations. They are just using their own intelligence without serving the Lord. They are just not doing material activities, but depending upon their limited knowledge, their limited imperfect intelligence and senses, and they engage in impersonal interpretations. And then the result is frustration. They sometimes they can, what was this? They have the guarantee of ultimate. Yeah, so the Vaishnavas, they have the guarantee of ultimate entrance into the kingdom of God. But Mayavadi sannyasis, they fall down from the path of self-realization because it's very tedious. They just get frustrated with it. They can't, unless and until we engage in the service, unless until we put our knowledge in action, realization will not happen, reciprocation with the Lord will not happen, and we cannot advance on the path of bhakti. That's why Mayavadis, they then just fall down, only depending upon the knowledge. They are frustrated and they fall down. Therefore, the conclusion is that those who are engaged in Krishna conscious activities are far better situated than the sannyasis engaged in simple speculation. So instead of giving up everything, if we engage everything in Krishna's service, it is far, far better than giving up everything and just speculating on Brahman and impersonalism and everything. So Prabhupada has given difference between Mayavadi sannyasi and Vaishnava sannyasi in the purport. And Krishna here in the verse helped us to understand what is the result if one is connected to the Supreme and what is the result if one is not connected to the Supreme. Okay, moving on to verse number 7. So this is the next section of the chapter now, from verse number 7 to 12. It tells us about a Nishkam Karam Yogi. This Nishkam Karam Yogi is actually a very elevated yogi who is now on the platform of Gyan. As per the ladder we understood, right? Nishkam Karam Yogi, then it goes to the step of Gyan Yoga, and that's how he progresses on the ladder till Bhakti Yoga. So this Nishkam Karam Yogi, he's really elevated now, and he has reached the platform of Gyan, and he is called a Jnani. Verse number 7. Yoga yukto vishuddhatma vijit atma jitendriya sarvabhutatma bhutatma kurvan api na lipyate.
Hare Krishna Mataji, should I read?
Yes, Mataji, please.
Translation: one who works in devotion, who is a pure soul and who controls his mind and senses is dear to everyone, and everyone is dear to him. Though always working, such a man is never entangled. Purport: one who is on the path of liberation by Krishna consciousness is very dear to every living being, and every living being is dear to him. This is due to his Krishna consciousness. Such a person cannot think of any living being as separate from Krishna, just as as the leaves and the branches of a tree are not separate from the tree. He knows very well that by pouring water on the root of the tree, the water will be distributed to all the leaves and branches, or by supplying the food to the stomach, the energy is automatically distributed throughout the body. Because one who works in Krishna consciousness is servant to all, he is very dear to everyone. And because everyone is satisfied by his work, he is pure in consciousness. Because he is pure in consciousness, his mind is completely controlled. And because his mind is controlled, his senses are also controlled. Because his mind is always fixed on Krishna, there is no chance of his being deviated from Krishna, nor is there a chance that he will engage his senses in matters other than the service of the Lord. He does not like to hear anything except topics relating to Krishna. He does not like to eat anything which is not offered to Krishna, and he does not wish to go anywhere if Krishna is not involved. Therefore, his senses are controlled. A man controlled senses cannot be offensive to anyone. One may ask, why then was Arjuna offensive in battle to others? Wasn't he in Krishna consciousness? Arjuna was only superficially offensive because as has already been explained in the second chapter, all the assembled persons, on the battlefield would continue to live individually as the soul cannot be slain. So spiritually, no one was killed on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. On their Only their dresses were changed by the order of Krishna, who was personally present. Therefore, Arjuna, while fighting on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, was not really fighting at all. He was simply carrying out orders of Krishna in full Krishna consciousness. Such a person is never entangled in the reactions of work. Hare Krishna Mataji. Thank you, Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Thank you. Okay, so here we understand now the symptoms or characteristics of a yogi, one who is situated on the elevated platform of Nishkam Karma Yoga. So what are his characteristics? Yoga Yukto Vishuddha Atma. Vishuddha Atma is one who has controlled the intelligence. Then is Vijit Atma, one who has controlled the mind. Then is Jitendriya, one who has controlled the senses. So these are the characteristics of a Jnani, or the one who is on the elevated platform of Nishkam Karma Yoga. And next line tells us Sarva Bhutatma Bhutatma. So he sees everyone in relation to the Supreme, and therefore he loves everyone without expecting anything from others, because he has control over his mind, over his intelligence and senses. He doesn't have any desires. He is not hankering for any result. He's not expecting anything in return. He's simply engaged in serving everybody. He's not envious of anyone. He loves everyone, and therefore he is loved by everyone. This is the stage of advanced Nishkam Karma Yogi, who is purified and now is on the platform of Gyan. Example for this we get is of the 6 Goswamis in Vrindavan. We understand from their background how they belong to such affluent families, and they were working at very high positions, but they gave up everything, they renounced everything, and they were living in Vrindavan, not even under the same tree. They were changing the tree also because they didn't want to be attached to that tree. So they were dear to both the gentlemen and the ruffians. Why? Because they were totally self-controlled and they only thought of everyone's welfare. They were non-envious, they loved everyone, and they were just working, they were serving for everybody's welfare. No selfish desires at all. They had totally given up everything, only serving the Lord and everybody. So therefore, they were dear to everyone. They were loved by everyone. They are loved by everyone. So these are the qualities of a jnani we understand from this verse. And Prabhupada then is telling that, yeah, this jnani, the elevated Nishkam Karam yogi, he understands, Prabhupada is giving again the example of the tree here, the branches and the roots. So he knows very well that by pouring water on the root of the tree, the water will be distributed to all the leaves and branches, or by supplying food to the stomach. This is the second example. The energy is automatically then distributed throughout the body. So he is engaged in serving the Lord. The Lord is the root or the stomach. So if one serves the stomach or the root, the entire tree, the entire body is nourished. Similarly, then the entire humanity, everybody is nourished. If we love God, we will naturally love everybody else also. So yeah, one who works in Krishna consciousness is servant to all. He's very dear to everyone. He's just serving them because he wants to please the Lord. He wants to serve the Lord, and everybody is connected to the Lord. His mind is controlled, his senses are controlled. Why is it so? Because his mind is always fixed upon Krishna. So it's not very easy to control this mind. In 6th chapter, we'll understand what Arjuna says about the mind, how fast it goes from one point to another. It's faster than the wind also, Vayu. So it can be only controlled if it is fixed on Krishna. He does not like to hear anything except topics. So he's engaging all his senses in Krishna consciousness. His hearing, his seeing, his working, all the indriyas are engaged in Krishna's service. Okay, then Prabhupada is putting one question here. Why then was Arjuna offensive to others? He was killing people, he was attacking them. So was that also a way of loving others? Wasn't he Krishna conscious? How could he do that then? So answer again, we all understand from the 2nd chapter already. So it was instruction to Arjuna. Of course, he was in doubt. He was put in a dilemma by seeing that situation on the battlefield. But then he understood the real nature of the body and the soul. And Krishna instructed him to do that because he was only used as an instrument in that work which Krishna had to anyways perform. He was here for establishing the dharma. So he had to uproot the adharmic people, and Arjuna was just used as an instrument. So Arjuna just took it as an instruction from the Lord, and he was again serving Krishna only by killing them. He was not killing them out of any enmity or any enviousness or some personal benefit. He was just doing it as a service to Krishna. Okay, so moving on to verse number 8 and 9. Neva kinchit karmoti yukto manyeta tattvavet pashyan shravan sprashan jigrahan ashnan gachan swapan shwasan pralapan visarjan grahanan unmishan nimishan api indriyan indriyartheshu vartanta iti dharayan.
Hare Krishna Mataji. Translation: a person in divine consciousness, although engaged in seeing, hearing, touching, smelling, eating, moving about, sleeping and breathing, always knows within himself that he actually does nothing at all, because while speaking, evacuating, receiving, or opening or closing his eyes, he always knows that only the material senses are engaged with their objects and he is aloof from them. Purport: a person in Krishna consciousness is pure in his existence, and consequently he has nothing to do with any work which depends upon 5 immediate and remote causes: the doer, the work, the situation, the endeavor, and fortune. This is because he is engaged in loving transcendental service of Krishna. Although he appears to be acting with his body and senses, he is always conscious of his actual position, which is spiritual engagement. In material consciousness, the senses are engaged in sense gratification, But in Krishna consciousness, the senses are engaged in the satisfaction of Krishna's senses. Therefore, the Krishna consciousness person is always free, even though he appears to be engaged in affairs of the senses. Activities such as seeing and hearing are actions of the senses meant for receiving knowledge, whereas moving, speaking, evacuating, etc., are actions of senses meant for work. A Krishna conscious person is never affected by the actions of the senses. He cannot perform any act except in service of the Lord, because he knows that he is the eternal servitor of the Lord. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji. So again, these are the qualities of a Jnani. He is engaging everything, as I just said in the previous verse also, he's seeing, hearing, touching, smelling, eating, moving about, sleeping, breathing. Everything is engaged in Krishna service, because while speaking, vacating, receiving, opening, closing his eyes, he always knows that only the material senses are engaged with their objects and that he is aloof from them. So this is a Jnani. This is the Gyan he has. He has full knowledge that I am not the body, but I am a spirit soul. Therefore, any activity performed by the body and the senses, it's aloof from him. He understands that I am a spirit soul. I am not doing it. This is just performed by the matter, by this mind and the senses. And in the purport, Prabhupada is again telling that Nishkam Karma Yogi is now a Jnani, and he is not affected by the actions of the senses. And whatever activities are performed by his senses, they are just to keep the body and soul together. He understands that everything ultimately is for the satisfaction of the Supreme, and therefore he is not affected by them. He is not doing anything for his personal gain. It's only for the satisfaction of the Supreme. He understands his position to be different from the material body, and he understands his position in connection to the Supreme Lord. So detachment, attachment, both he knows very well now, and is engaged in activities to keep the body and soul together and to serve the Lord. Therefore, he is not affected by anything. Everything is by Krishna's desire, and he is just serving him. In the purport also, Prabhupada is telling, he appears to be acting with his body and senses. He is always conscious of his actual position. So though he is engaged in various activities using his body and senses, but he understands his position. He is always aloof from them. And therefore, the Krishna conscious person is always free, even though he appears to be engaged in affairs of the senses. Activities such as seeing, hearing, action, senses meant for receiving knowledge, whereas moving, speaking, vacating as actions of the senses. So Prabhupada is telling about the Karma Indriya and the Jnana Indriya here. So all the Indriyas, all the senses are active, but this person, Nishkam Karma Yogi, he understands his position and he's aloof from them. He's using all the Indriyas only in the service of the Lord, not gaining any personal result, not for any personal fruit. Okay, so this is again some more qualities of Jnani. Moving on to verse number 10. Now, verse number 10, Krishna is telling us what is the result for one who is working with such a consciousness. What will he get then? Brahmani adhaya karmani sangam tyaktva karoti yah lipyate na sa papena padma patramivambasa.
I'll read, Mataji.
Yes, please.
One who performs his duty without attachment, surrendering the results onto the Supreme Lord, is unaffected by sinful action, as the lotus leaf is untouched by water. Purport. Here, Brahmani means in Krishna consciousness. The material world is a sum total manifestation of the three modes of material nature, technically called a pradhana. The Vedic hymns, Sarvam Hitet Brahman, Tasmad Itthed Brahman Namarupam Anam Ka Jayate, and in the Bhagavad Gita, Mama Yuir Mahad Brahma indicate that everything in the material world is a manifestation of the Brahman. And although the effects are differently manifested, they are non-different from the cause. In the Isopanishad, it is said that everything is related to the Supreme Brahman or Krishna, and therefore everything belongs to him only. One who knows perfectly well that everything belongs to Krishna, that he is the proprietor of everything, and that therefore everything is engaged in the service of the Lord. naturally has nothing to do with the results of his activities, whether virtuous or sinful. Everyone's material body, being a gift of the Lord for carrying out a particular type of action, can be engaged in Krishna consciousness. It is then beyond contamination of sinful reactions, exactly as the lotus leaf, though remaining in water, is not wet. The Lord also says in the Gita 3.30, Maya Sarvani Karmani Sanyasa, resign all works onto me, Krishna. This conclusion is that a person without Krishna consciousness acts according to the concept of material body and senses. But a person in Krishna consciousness acts according to the knowledge of the body, is the property of Krishna, and therefore should be engaged in service of Krishna. Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Thank you. So then what is the result? So if one is in a consciousness that everything belongs to the Lord and he engages everything in the service of the Lord, then he is not affected by the sinful reactions. Lipyate na sa papena. He is not lipyate. He is not affected by the paps, the sinful reactions. How does he live in the material world? Padam patram ivam bhasa. Padam patram is like the lotus leaf. He is living in the material world. So material world is like the water, and lotus leaf is that person. Though the lotus flower is in the water, but it is not touched by that water. So the person, when he has this knowledge, when he's working in Krishna consciousness, though he's living in the material world, he is not affected by the sins, by the reactions, by the sinful reactions of this material world. So he's still away from this contamination of the material world, just like a lotus is untouched by the water. So that's what Krishna is telling here in the verse. And yeah, in the translation also Prabhupada telling, as the lotus leaf is untouched by water. So it's untouched by the contaminations of the material world, basically. And then in the purport, Prabhupada is telling us about the proprietorship of Krishna over everything. That's the first verse of Ishopanishad Prabhupada is mentioning here. In the Ishopanishad, it is said that everything is related to the Supreme Brahman or Krishna, and thus everything belongs to him only. So this is a very important verse from Shri Ishopanishad. Ishavasyam idam sarvam yat kincha jagatyam jagat. Tena tyaktena bhunjita ma gradha kasya swedadhanam. So everything in this material world, living or non-living, everything is owned by the Lord and controlled by the Lord. Therefore, we should not consider ourselves to be the proprietor, to be the controller of anything. We should only accept the things which are necessary for us, which are kept as our quota, which we have got by Lord's will. We should only accept those things, understanding who is the real owner. If we try to acquire things illegally, immorally, and over endeavoring, trying to conquer over others' things, then we are just being thieves. So similarly, understanding that everything which is here present in the material world, it belongs to Krishna, and if we use that only for ourselves, we don't use it for the owner, then who are we? None other than the thief. So if we don't want to be the thieves, whatever by Krishna's grace we have got, the real owner has given us something, is to be used in his service. We should not use it for our gratification, because he is the proprietor of everything. Therefore, everything should be engaged in the service of the Lord. So it's a very important message for us from this purport here. Even our material body, it's a gift of the Lord. We can't create the material body on our own. We cannot create anything. We may claim that we have made this house, we have got this car, we have earned this money, but this house was built by several ingredients. Did we create all that? Did we create the fire? Did we create the wind? Did we create the earth? Did we create these mountains, stones, everything? No, they are all belongings of Krishna. They are just provided to us by him, and we are using them, putting them together and using them. And then if we claim that we are the proprietors and we are the enjoyers, then we are none other than thieves, and we will have to face the punishment just like an ordinary thief. right? Similarly, this body, it's made up of the Panchadhatu, and which are given only by Krishna. We can't do it. Everything belongs to him. Therefore, we have to engage everything in Krishna's service. And if we do so, then we don't have to face the sinful reactions. We don't have to undergo the punishments like a thief. Okay, then Prabhupada is again telling in verse number 30 of third chapter, Mai sarvani karmani sannyasa. So that resign all works unto me. Do all your works for me. Mai sarvani karmani sannyasa. So do it for my pleasure and just be away from the fruits. The conclusion is that a person without Krishna consciousness acts according to the concept of the material body and senses, but a person in Krishna consciousness acts according to the knowledge that the body is the property of Krishna and should be engaged in the service of Krishna. So this knowledge is very, very important for us. We should keep reminding ourselves who is the real proprietor, who is the real controller, who is the real enjoyer. If we engage in everything understanding this, then only we can be really happy, we can be peaceful, and we can be free from all the contaminations and sins and punishments. We can satisfy the Lord and we can be satisfied ultimately. Yes, so verse number 11 now. So this verse again, it's all these verses, as I mentioned in verse number 12, they're just telling us about the symptoms of the yogis. So this verse is telling how does such a yogi then acts. Kayena manasa buddhaya kevalir indriyer api yogina karma kurvanti sangam tyaktatma shuddhaye.
Should I read?
Yes, Mataji.
Translation: the yogis, abandoning attachment, act with body, mind, intelligence, and even with the senses only for the purpose of purification. Purport: when one acts in Krishna consciousness for satisfaction of the senses of Krishna, any action, whether of the body, mind, intelligence, or even the senses, is purified of material contamination. There are no material reactions resulting from the activities of a Krishna conscious person. Therefore, purified activities, which are generally called sadachara, can be easily performed by acting in Krishna consciousness. Sri Rupa Goswami, in his Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 1.2.187, describes this as follows: Iha vasya harer dasya karmana manasa gira nikhilasya api avasthasau jivan mukta sa uchyate. A person acting in Krishna consciousness, or in other words, in the service of Krishna, with his body, mind, intelligence, and words, is a liberated person, and even within the material world. Although he may be engaged in many so-called material activities, he has no false ego, for he does not believe that he is this material body, or that possesses the body. He knows that he is not this body, and that his body does not belong to him. He himself belongs to Krishna, and the body too belongs to Krishna. When he applies everything produced of the body, mind, intelligence, words, life, wealth, etc., whether he may have within his possession, whatever may have within his possession, to Krishna's service, he is at once dovetailed with Krishna. He is one with Krishna and is devoid of the false ego, and that leads one to believe that he is the body, etc. And this is the perfect state of Krishna consciousness. Hare Krishna, Mataji. Thank you, Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. So Krishna is here telling how does such a yogi act. So this is a Nishkam Karma yogi who is working, and he is engaging his kaya, that's body, manasa, his mind, buddhaya, that's his intelligence, and even his senses. Kevaler indriyer api. Api means even his senses are engaged. So this phrase is put here, Kevaler Indriyer Api. This is to tell us that, the other yogis like Gyan Yogi, Ashtanga Yogi, they don't engage their senses. Their senses are inactive. But here it's Nishkam Karam Yogi, elevated Nishkam Karam Yogi is the Jnani we are talking about here. He is engaging his senses also. He's engaging his body, his mind, his intelligence, and also his senses. And then what happens? Yogina karma kurvanti, performing his karma, his prescribed duties. Sangam tyaktatma shuddhaye. But sangam tyaktva, detached from the fruits. Tyaktva is giving up the fruits. Then why is he working? Why is he engaging everything in some activity? Why his senses are not in inactive state? He doesn't desire any fruit also, and he is still engaging his senses in some activity. Any idea why is he doing so? Krishna is telling him only for the
Satisfaction of Krishna.
only for the purpose of purification. Just read the translation, the last part of the translation. The yogis abandoning attachment to the fruit, act with body, mind, intelligence, and even with the senses, only for the purpose of purification. Shuddhaye, the last word in the verse. They are working only for purification. Atma Shuddhaye. Sangam Tyaktva Atma Shuddhaye. For their Atma's Shuddhi, for the purpose of purification. That is the goal of a Nishkam Karma Yogi, to become purified and then get liberated from this material world, from the material contamination. And again, in the purport, Srila Prabhupada has very mercifully given a totally devotional commentary for our sake, for devotees' sake. And very advanced stage of Krishna consciousness, Bhaktivedanta Thakur, he says that Manasa Deha Geha Jo Kuch More Arpit Tava Pada Kamala Nand Kishore. So my mind, my body, my house, whatever I think is mine, I offer to you, O Nand Kishore. Arpita Tava Pada Kamal, I offer it to your lotus feet, O Nand Kishore. So Prabhupada is teaching us the same thing in the purport here, that everything belongs to Krishna and everything should be used in Krishna's service, because a devotee, a mature devotee, he has this perfect understanding, and then he can be freed from the material contamination, from the sinful reaction. So if one acts in this way, there is no question of entanglement in this material world. So he is on the liberated platform even while living in this material world. We did the example of the lotus leaf in the previous verse. So even while living here, he's still on the liberated platform. So this is only possible for a devotee when everything is engaged in Krishna's service. So this verse, Krishna is of course speaking of a Nishkam Karma Yogi who is working for purification. But in the purport, Prabhupada is talking for the devotees, like how we have to use our wealth, our intelligence, mind, body, everything for Krishna's service. Like we were discussing, this house is mine, this is mine. So somebody may say that, okay, it belongs to Krishna, but I worked hard. I used my intelligence to get it, to earn it. It was not given to me for free. So therefore, I deserve to enjoy. Okay. But then the answer is, who gave you the intelligence? Who gave you this body to work? Who gave you all these senses to work? Krishna. So everything we get by using our body, mind, intelligence, senses, everything then ultimately belongs to Krishna and should be used for his service. So that's what Prabhupada is trying to help us understand from these verses. Moving on to verse number 12. Yukta karma phalam tyaktva shantim apnoti nashtikam ayukta kama karena phale sakto nibhadyate.
Hare Krishna Mataji, I'll read.
Yes.
Translation: the steadily devoted soul attains unadulterated peace because he offers the result of all activities to me, whereas a person who is not in union with the divine, who is greedy for the fruits of his labor, becomes entangled. Purport: the difference between a person in Krishna consciousness and a person in bodily consciousness is that the former is attached to Krishna, whereas the latter is attached to the results of his activities. The person who is attached to Krishna and works for him only is certainly a liberated person, and he has no anxiety over the results of his work. In the Bhagavatam, The cause of anxiety over the result of an activity is explained as being one's functioning in the conception of duality, that is, without knowledge of absolute truth. Krishna is the supreme absolute truth, the personality of Godhead. In Krishna consciousness, there is no duality. All that exists is a product of Krishna's energy, and Krishna is all good. Therefore, activities in Krishna consciousness are on the absolute plane. They are transcendental and have no material effect. One is therefore filled with peace in Krishna consciousness. But one who is entangled in profit calculation for sense gratification cannot have that peace. This is the secret of Krishna consciousness. Realization that there is no existence besides Krishna is platform of peace and fearlessness. Hare Krishna Mata.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. So here Krishna is comparing Nishkam Karam Yogi and a materialistic person who has no connection with Krishna at all. So the two words here, the first word in the first line is Yukta, and the second line first word is Ayukta. So Yukta and Ayukta. Yukta means connection to the Supreme Lord. So the person who is connected to the Supreme Lord, he then acts by giving up karma phal. Yukta karam phalam tyaktva. Again, karam phalam tyaktva, that word is used. So he gives up the fruit, the desire to enjoy. Then the result is steady peace. Shantim apnoti nashtikim. Then he can enjoy the steady peace. So this principle is very important for us devotees as well, because to the degree we are not attached to the fruit, we are not hankering for the fruit for our own satisfaction, to that degree we are peaceful. On the other hand, ayukta, not connected to the Supreme Lord, Kam Karena is working to satisfy his lustful propensities for his own sense gratification, therefore attached to the fruit. So his phala sakto. The previous one was karam phalam tyaktva, here is phala sakto. Then is nibhadyate, is entangled in the material world. He will not be peaceful, he will only become more and more entangled in the material world. So that is the difference between one who is attached to the Supreme Lord and one who is not attached. In the purport, then Prabhupada is telling us the last line. It's very interesting. One who is engaged, who is entangled in profit calculation for sense gratification cannot have that peace. This is the secret of Krishna consciousness. Realization that there is no existence besides Krishna is the platform of peace and fearlessness. Fear is that who will protect me if I don't do this, if I don't get this. We are always fearful for some or the other reason. Who will protect us? But if we have this strong conviction, avashya rakshive Krishna, Krishna will definitely protect me. So then there is no cause of fear in any situation. Srila Prabhupada would give his own example that I think I've used it earlier also, how during Second World War, Prabhupada was still in Kolkata because his wife didn't want to leave. Others were leaving the city and going somewhere else. Prabhupada was still staying there, and the bombs were dropping, there were blackouts, people were hiding in bunkers. But Srila Prabhupada was cooking kachoris and puris for Krishna in the kitchen. And when somebody told him, "What are you doing? Some bomb will attack you," Prabhupada said that it's okay. If Krishna wants to come in the form of a bomb, it's okay. So I just have to serve him in all the situations. So he had that much faith on Krishna. So if one is fully Krishna conscious, that's how he is fearless and he's peaceful. And that's the difference between a Krishna conscious person and a bodily conscious person. That's what Krishna is telling here in this verse. So here, I don't know if you have this question, but it's important for us to understand the difference between, so far we have been talking about a devotee, we have been talking about a Nishkam Karam Yogi. So we need to understand what is the difference between a Nishkam Karam Yogi and a devotee. Any idea? I might have mentioned it earlier also, but still we should discuss it at this point also. You want to say something for this, Mataji Prabhuji? What is the difference between a Nishkam Karam Yogi and a devotee? Both of them are not attached to the fruit.
No, Mataji.
No idea. In the verses we are reading, Krishna is talking about
Mataji.
Nishkam Karma Yogi.
Yeah, Mataji, Nishkam Karma Yogi is free from bondage. There's no duality in his mind.
And what about Bhakta? Bhakta is also free from dualities, free from bondage, a devotee.
I know.
See, this is, yeah, that's why I thought we should
Oh, no.
discuss it here. Yeah. Here, this is, yeah, breaking Mataji. Are you still saying something? Please continue. Okay, I can't hear you clearly. So, Chitresh Prabhu, you have any idea?
No, you can explain for us. Yeah.
So, we have been seeing here Krishna is talking about the Nishkam Karma Yogi, the elevated Nishkam Karma Yogi. That's what is being called a Jnani here. How he's detached from, his characteristics. We understood how he's engaging everything just for the sake of service. Is not attached to the fruit. He just wants to do everything for the purpose of purification. And same thing is done by a devotee also. But the main difference between a Nishkam Karma Yogi and a Bhakta is the difference of realization. The Nishkam Karma Yogi, he doesn't have the proper understanding that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Now, do you remember it, Barnali Mataji? You have been very regularly attending the classes. We are so thankful to you, and Prabhupada will definitely be pleased by you. So,
Yes, Mataji.
yeah, so Nishkam Karma Yogi doesn't have the proper understanding that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but a Bhakta, a devotee, has this understanding. So then, what is Nishkam Karma Yogi doing? For whom is he sacrificing the result? Nishkam Karma Yogi, he may sacrifice his fruits then for some spiritual cause, for purification, for attaining liberation, for some pleasing some Brahmanas, for pleasing some Vaishnavas, but he doesn't have any understanding of Krishna. At this stage, at the stage of Nishkam Karma Yoga, a person doesn't have the complete understanding of Krishna, though he is giving up the fruit. He's just giving the fruit up indirectly. Is not offering them directly to Krishna. The purpose of his activities is purification. The purpose of his activities is not satisfaction of Krishna. It's only purification. Therefore, he is detached from the fruit. But a bhakta, a devotee, he's on the top of the ladder. Therefore, he has all the characteristics of the previous yogas also. He has the characteristics of Nishkam Karma Yogi. He has the characteristics of a Gyan Yogi, a Dhyan Yogi, everybody, because he has covered up all the steps. So therefore, he's also doing the same thing. He's engaging everything, but in relation to Krishna, for the satisfaction of Krishna. So that is the difference between a Nishkam Karma Yogi and a devotee. At this stage, it's important for us to understand this. Okay. So we have completed this section. The next section from verse number 13 till 17 will Krishna will tell us about relationship between Ishvara, Jiva, and Prakriti. So I think it's already 8:08. We can discuss that next week. Any questions, any comments, any realizations, anything you want to share from today's class?
Mataji, the verse you said mentioned from Ishopanishad, first verse. Is it there in the Ishopanishad that Prabhupada's book?
Yes, Mataji. Prabhupada's small issue Upanishad book. This is Mantra 1.
Okay, Mataji.
Ishavasyam. Yeah, everything belongs to Krishna. Yes. Anything else? Any takeaways from today's class? What we can practice during this week? How we can advance on this path of Krishna consciousness?
Mataji, since I am away from Bangalore, here I am serving my family. So can I serve it with the consciousness that I am serving for Krishna's jivas? So that in that way, because I am not being able to cook prasadam and all. So
You're not able to offer the food there?
for the food in my mind, there's no deity, and I don't want to establish something here that my son or daughter-in-law won't be able to continue with. So I am doing whatever I am having, I am offering in my mind only.
Okay. Okay, but it's without onion garlic, right?
Yeah, but
Yeah.
most
So if you don't have any deities, Mataji, I mean, Krishna is present in various forms.
yeah, there is
In case you don't have deities, you can offer it on the fire also. You have the gas, right? The
yeah,
gas stove. So you
yeah.
can just take a bite and offer it there also. Offer it to Krishna. Krishna can, that fire is also
My
representative of.
put it then
And if that is also not possible, then yes, you can offer in your mind also. Krishna is Bhava Grahi. Krishna sees our Bhav. It's not just the action. If you are not able to perform the action, you just offer him with your with love and devotion, and he will definitely accept it. Remember him that it belongs to you, Krishna. I am grateful you have given it to me. I first offer it to you, and I want to have your prasadam. Give it to me as your mercy. So just say your prayer in your mind, offer it to him, and then honor it. No problem.
yes, Master. I offer
It's just that we have
when
to remember Krishna all the time. In all the situations, we remember Krishna. That is important.
yes, Mataji. Yes, Mataji.
Yeah.
This is
Anybody
Kartik.
else?
Also, no,
Yeah.
that's why I increased the chanting to 16 rounds because I was chanting 14
Hari Hari Mataji. Wonderful.
because I
Yeah, that
other
is,
yeah.
yeah, wonderful. Mataji. So just keep doing that. And yeah, somewhere it's not practical for us to do anything. So definitely we can do mentally offer.
Yes,
You're
Mataji.
offering the lamps also. Are you able to do that? Okay. Wonderful.
They don't have an altar. It's just a. So I'm not offering lamps. I'm chanting and I'm offering in my mind the food what I am having.
Okay, Mataji. In your mind only you can offer the ghee lamp also. Just think of Yashoda Damodar and offer the ghee lamp.
I'm thinking of Tulasi Mata in my home and I'm doing all that, but physically I'm not being able to do.
Just remember that what you have at your home and offer it in your mind. With
Yes,
love. Do it with love and devotion. That is more important.
yes, ma'am.
Okay. Chitresh Prabhu Dechumataji, anything from you? Any takeaways?
I think
Any
yeah, we have the same problem while to offer the food, some days it is cooked without onion garlic, the other days it is with onion garlic. So um, I mean, I'm a vegetarian, but yeah, we still use onion garlic. So yeah, there is pretty much inconsistency with the offering. So what I do now is we just we offer water with tulsi leaves, and next day we take that as morning, like we take it as prasadam. That's the consistency we are able to do right now.
Okay. Yes, so yeah, you are just starting, Prabhuji. At least, yeah, that's how we step by step we have to progress. Bhakti is a cultivation. It's not just, just a push button and you are there.
Yeah.
So how we prepare the field, we sow the seed, we water it, and we have to cultivate the plant, right? We have to keep removing the weeds, and that's how we get the fruit then. So bhakti is similarly like that. So step by step, we have to do everything. So you are preparing the field now. You are just preparing for sowing the seed of bhakti. You are attending Bhagavad Gita classes also. So keep doing that. Have that sincere desire to practice and progress. And you can also offer fruits to Krishna, with water. You can offer fruit also. It's again all with the bhav. Krishna is a bhava grahi. So just, we have that relationship with Krishna, that I want to offer him something, not forced by something, just out of love, we want to give him something. So whenever some sweet is prepared, or fruits we have at home, so you can offer one fruit also to him with water. And of course, whenever something is without onion, garlic, or some sweets are there, do offer that also. So naturally, then slowly you will start building your relationship with him, and you would want to serve him more, and you will have that desire to prepare without onion, garlic every day. So that's okay, Prabhuji. So just have that sincere desire and try to offer him whenever possible, fruits, dry fruits, whatever is there without onion, garlic.
Yes.
Okay, and Kartik month is very, very auspicious. All our desires are fulfilled by mercy of Radha Rani. So pray to her that she gives us, strength. We all need to pray. We all need that strength. She's Ujeshwari. We all need that energy. And she can refer us to Krishna. We can practice the bhakti properly. So we all need the mercy of Radha Rani. How she is the topmost devotee. We can, she, by her mercy only, we can serve Krishna. We can do everything for his satisfaction. So this Kartik month, offer your sincere prayers at the lotus feet of Radha Rani, and she will definitely guide you and give you that desire to do everything for Krishna. Hari Bol.
Hare Krishna.
Hari Krishna. Okay, so I think that's it. Dechu Mataji, you have anything to add or say?
I think she's not there.
Okay, she already left. Okay. Okay, so that's it. We'll meet next week then. Hare Krishna, everybody. Tomorrow is Purnima, so light as many lamps as possible in your house. Whatever we couldn't do throughout the month, these last 5 days we tried to cover up. Of course, we have to do it every day in the Kartik month, but due to if some reasons we are out, or like how Banali Mata is now out, if you're not able to offer these 5 days, the last 5 days from Ekadashi to Purnima, we used to cover up all that. And now, even if during these 5 days we have not been able to do anything, Purnima is the day now. So offer as many as lamp possible to Tulsi Maharani and to Krishna on the altar. You can just decorate the altar fully with lamps, and chant extra rounds tomorrow. And of course, read Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam for the pleasure of Prabhupada and Krishna. So praying for everybody. Hare Krishna, Srimad Bhagavad Gita,